I'm always wondering what to speak with you about every week, and sometimes I go online and Google questions that teenagers ask. And a big one that comes up over and over again is the whole science versus religion thing, which is really only argued by two groups of people: the very right wing conservative religious people, and the very anti religion people. Everybody else in the middle, and most of us are in the middle, don't have that opinion. We kind of acknowledge that there's some things that questions that are answered by both. And I think that's one of the really important things to understand, especially when we get into things like who created the world, how was the world created, because science and religion ask two very different questions. Religion asks who, God, and why did God create? Because God wanted to be in relationship with God's creation. That's the who and the why. Science isn't interested in the who and the why. Those aren't scientific questions. Science asks things like how. So how did it done? Well, Big Bang is pretty well the theory of the beginning of the universe. Where it happened? Well, space. When it happened? Billions and billions of years ago, far before humanity and dinosaurs and anybody else was around to deal with things. So those are science questions, and even though theology kind of has a play at it, it really doesn't spend time answering those questions. We're far more interested in the who and the why than we are about the when and the where. But just this past week, something really interesting came out of the scientific community. They were talking about the Big Bang Theory, because if you go with the Big Bang Theory as it's generally known, they have been able to calculate math that's far beyond me back to the point where it would have happened. And that kind of sent the church scurrying. It's like, okay, if we can scientifically calculate the moment of start, then what does that do with our faith? So there was some conversation. It wasn't a lot. It wasn't earth shattering, but it was there. But this week, or last week actually, something really new came out, or at least I came across the article at that point in time, which I thought was really quite fascinating. There are scientists who say, no, we can't do that math because it gets to be theoretical, and afterwards you get to a point where it just gets kind of crazy, where you've done the numbers just don't start to work anymore. So science, the astrophysicists, the theoretical astrophysicists doing this, have kind of decided that there was something before the Big Bang. They don't have no idea what. A void, an emptiness, a something there before everything was set into motion. Have you read Genesis lately? I'm not saying Genesis was written as a scientific text. It wasn't. But how cool is it when we look at science fairly and we look at faith fairly? We can see them walking side by side. They both answer different questions, and they both give us a wholer, a bigger, a more mature understanding of the world. Science has said, and they're not prepared to say that's God, and that's fine, but they have said there is something even before. Our faith tells us there's something even before. Science is not used to prove religion, and religion is not used to prove faith, but they can go together. Just like two colored strands that retain their colors, but they can mix and mingle and create new fabric, and they can create beautiful pictures. So it's really kind of cool when science and theology kind of match up like that. And that's kind of the attitude to have going forward. Science will not answer all the questions, they know that. Theology will not answer all the questions. Most of us know that. So when they do kind of mash up, I think it's to be celebrated. It's kind of neat.